Hello all, and welcome back to a new episode of TV and Us, a conversation show about the TV series we just can't stop talking about. My name is Jennifer Hahn.
And I'm Sarah Callan.
And each season, we focus on a different show, reviewing it episode by episode, and we invite you to watch along with us. Right now, we are reviewing, and today finishing up our journey through Dune Prophecy. And today we are on episode 6, the season finale, titled The High-Handed Enemy. If you haven't watched it yet, this is your spoiler alert. Please check it out before listening to the rest of our conversations because you want to go into a finale episode, the blank slate. So make sure you watch that finale before listening to the rest of all of our thoughts about this finale and the show overall. All right, Sarah, kick us off with a summary for Dune episode 6.
Okay, get ready.
Build up.
Here we go. As Tula contends with the stunning reveal of Desmond's true identity, the Acolytes uncover a devastating, long-held secret about the Sisterhood. Meanwhile, Valia executes her plan for Inez's escape, ... which leads to an epic confrontation with an increasingly powerful Desmond.
See, I wish there was as much tension and stakes as that ... in the episode summary that I experienced.
Right? That ... is doing work.
Yes. Okay, well, in TV and Us tradition, let's start off with our episode titles for episode 6.
Mine is Be Free.
That's a great choice. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And we'll get into that a whole bit. Okay. My episode title is The Shadows.
Ooh, so ominous and spooky. What is in the shadows?
I don't know, but apparently we're going to have a lot more time to explore what's in the shadows, which we will talk about towards the end of this conversation.
Indeed.
The journey that will continue in this world. So let's dive right in. Okay, well, before we talk about the plot points, can we talk about how this was a 90-minute long episode? Sarah, please share your thoughts about the length.
Well, okay, so before we even get into that, I would just like to acknowledge that we are recording this episode on Festivus, the glorious holiday that is marked by the airing of grievances.
This is so fitting.
I would just like to thank Dune Prophecy for helping us get into the Festivus spirit. And my first grievance that I would like to air is, why is this episode an hour and 21 minutes long? What in the world? We're out of control. Yeah. Okay? Like, streaming services have broke our brains. How is that long of an episode? Okay, that's basically a movie.
It is.
What are we doing?
It is.
I'm so annoyed. Even before I clicked play on that this morning, I was like, I'm already upset because this is so much longer than I wanted to watch this show today. Yep. It's fine, but I'm annoyed.
They really needed a longer runway. So I think it was like 80 minutes too short still for how much plot that they stuffed in. That's when you know maybe there's some pacing things we need to reevaluate over the course of this whole narrative arc. But yes, I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't really thinking about it, but I also saw an hour, 21 minutes, and I was like, oh, I allocated an hour for this. I need to reassess my calendar for today. And saw an extra whole half an hour more for this episode. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we've learned that spending 2 to 3 episodes of a 6-episode season on exposition is probably not the way to go.
Yeah, not a good idea. Right. Or, you could break this episode up into 2. How about that? It's a great idea. 2 45-minute long ones.
Yeah.
Doesn't solve for a lot, but at least it's more bite-sized for the amount of characters to keep.
At least we didn't have to carve out an hour and a half in our days today to watch this. Yeah. It's fine. We're here. We did it.
We did. We accomplished the goal. And we got through this journey. So I guess let's dive right in. Tell me about some of the big reveals, plot points that you would like to air any grievances or praise for. We welcome that here too, here in the holiday season, about what this finale chooses to do with some of these big storylines.
Yeah, I think my only... I think I have two positives for this. My one positive is Dorothea taking over Lila and just destroying everything, bringing everything out into the light, showing how Valia and them killed everybody. Like, I am here for that. Let's freaking go. Let's burn this to the ground. I'm here for it. Let's go. I am 100% behind Dorothea. Let's do this. So I love that. And then I'm also, you know what? I'm not mad at Natalia just like rising up and being like, you know what? This is my kingdom. Screw everybody else. I'm going to do what I want. I'm in charge. And I'm like, I respect it. I think those are the two things that I'm like, okay, I like this. I'm here for this. I think everything else, I was like, ugh, really? Okay, whatever.
Oh, let's talk about the Natalia storyline, shall we? Because
yes, your girl.
I've
share your thoughts.
Rooting for her over the course of the show, and I really didn't think the show would give her such a fabulous arc and kind of her rise to power and her playing all of the game pieces that she has around her. I every episode, I think I said, I thought that her role in the show would be kind of up and they would focus on some of the other characters, and she continues to make moves and have agency and plot and plan for her rise. And it was sweet satisfaction watching her ultimately be able to take full control after having spent so many decades sitting in the sidelines, having to watch this incompetent man run this galaxy with his kind of weak morals and inability to make hard choices, and she is willing and able to. And I think that is so satisfying to see for this female character, especially in a show that's about, you know, its premise about the Bene Gesserit, who are conniving and cunning and sharp and incredibly intelligent. And I love that she's not a Bene Gesserit at all, and yet she is just as much, if not on par with them as well, on being able to scheme her way through to power. And I love that. I think that's such a great addition to a show about the Bene Gesserit, to have this woman who is not gifted in all of these ways, but is able to use purely her mind to scheme her way through. It's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's great. I don't know that we're supposed to be rooting for her, but I'm definitely rooting for her. Because she's so tenacious, and she also knows what's going on. You know, she is unafraid to step up and take power, and she can rule and lead and has significant influence, and she's not afraid to use her authority. And I'm kind of here for it. Like, at least she's very interesting. And I think that that's a fun... I'm not excited about a second season, but the idea of her having a more prominent role is very exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think she's an interesting character because she isn't this like full whole character that has shown balance. You know, I think if she has shown this emotional sensitivity and empathy and whatnot, maybe we could root for a little bit more. And so I felt the same feelings of like conflicting emotion in me of like, she's making some real cutthroat choices and is clearly can be very cold-hearted in some of her choices, but also that was what the Bene Gesserit identified in her, is that raw ambition, and when taken too far can be pretty cutthroat, but at the same time is necessary for this incredible rise to power. So I don't know. I mean, net, I'm rooting for her. I love to see a woman just like absolutely barrel through and scheme and use all of her wit and tactics to work her way to the top. Like, yeah, she can maybe work on some of the like emotional sensitivity part and empathizing with the people around her and, you know, showing mercy and things like that, perhaps. But that's less fun sometimes. We don't need balanced characters. Sometimes we just need a ruthless woman that's clawing her way to power. And yeah, we would love to see it.
So maybe not throwing your child in jail?
You know, maybe not the best choice. She does cry, so like we'll give her that. You know, she knows there's emotional stakes involved here, and she's still making a hard choice. So maybe not the best. But yeah, I think that's been consistent with her character throughout. So like she's, for example, she's really using Desmond. She did not give two shits about him.
Oh yeah.
So not great either. But again, serving her goal.
You know what? Do what you gotta do. It's entertaining, at least.
So entertaining. Oh, it's great. One of the things that I liked in this episode, so we'll start with some of those, is what they did with Haviko's character and the way that he dies. I thought that was so interesting, that whole scene that happens right before his death, where he learns from Valia that every decision and every part of his life was essentially orchestrated and calculated. And I think the magnitude of a realization like that was really fun to ponder, like as a person, for someone to tell you that every important relationship, every big choice, every milestone in your life was carefully planned is such a mind explosion. And then to see him choose like his version of freedom or agency in the last thing that he could before he died, there's something like really poetic and tragic about that, where he chooses to take his own life, and he says right before that, you know, this is me being able to choose this for myself. I can control this. And so I thought that was like really well written and big and dramatic and Shakespearean and tragic, but there's a like small, really tragic victory for that character as well, who has just learned that nothing in his life has meant anything and he's never chosen any of it. For him to feel even an ounce of agency and choose how he wants to die was a fascinating choice. So there was something really big and dramatic and tragic about that I thought was oddly fitting for a character that's really been difficult to watch and just flailing from episode to episode in his incompetency throughout the show. But in this final moments, he has that human spirit and that will to have agency. And I think he exhibits that in the only way he knows that he can.
Yeah, I struggled with that scene a little bit because, like, yes, I get all of that, and I understand the poeticness and everything, but to me, it was just yet another overly dramatic moment in just a series of melodramatic moments in this episode. Like, just, I don't know. To me, this whole episode just felt like a really, really long soap opera set in space. And so that was just another level of it. And then he stabs himself in the gut. And I'm like, that's a terrible way to do this. What are you doing? And then for Francesca to be there and like weeping and all, like, it was just so over the top. I appreciate what the show was trying to do, but it was just so comically over the top for me that I was like, okay, let's just get through this. But I do appreciate the sentiment of what it was trying to do, but I don't know. For me, it was just very overly dramatic, and I couldn't get into that scene.
Well, because everything else around it also like big dramatic moment after another. Versus,
oh my
like,
gosh.
If it was set up better.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so much.
And I
like,
love
wow.
the shot of Natalia's hand with Gom Jabbar just creeping in from the right side of the frame to take her out with that needle with the poison on it. I thought that was great.
That was great. I loved that. And like Francesca's like weeping over Yabiko, and like, he's just like big ol' eyes staring.
Yes.
It was great. I loved that. That was top notch.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I wish the show would have played with a little bit more that I liked about this scene is that none of this happened according to Valia's plan, which I think is just an interesting concept that the show's been kind of playing with, is that Valia's always wanted a sense of control. I mean, it's the Ben Gesserit way, is to be able to like truly be the puppet master behind everything that unfolds. And her underestimating the way that Emperor Haviko could take matters into his own hands. Francesca dying was not part of her plan. And Natalia taking power, not part of her plan. And so I was waiting for all of the after effects of this moment where these characters have made choices that are different from she expected. I wanted that to have stake. So I wanted, for example, Francesca to have played a key role to like open the gate, to like let them through, but she couldn't be there because some things don't go according to the way that Valia is always orchestrated. And so for there to be stakes, that could have been really interesting. But they don't really do that. I mean, most of what happens continues to happen as it's meant to. But I like that idea of Valia underestimating or perhaps miscalculating the game pieces on the board and her not getting everything right. She gets a lot right most of the time. And so for this to be different than she expected, I think it would just be really fun to see play out. And then all of the characters now have to react to everything not going according to plan and have to think on their feet. It would have been really fun to see.
And that was the fun part of episode 4, is that
yes.
we understood what everybody's plans were. And so then when they all got together and things went wrong, we had to see them react to it. And that is fun to watch. But there's so much going on in this show and in this episode that we don't have the time to learn their plans. And then we don't have the time to see them react when things go wrong. So it's just kind of like, oh, things happened, but we can continue carrying on our trajectory, you know, so that there's no stakes, there's no tension. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, and now we go to the next thing. Oh, we have a little bitty fight, but of course our heroes win because they're our heroes, so they have to win. So then we just continue on our merry way. And it's just kind of anticlimactic. And even the big moments, like the Valia and Desmond showdown, it was just kind of like, okay, why are we back in the before times, and why are we in the snow, and what are we doing? Like, this is just, we're having a mind fight. Like, oh, okay, what is this? It's kind of anticlimactic. It looks beautiful, but because we don't have these deep stakes attached to it, there's really not as much tension as there could have been. And then the mind fight ends, and then we just all go our separate ways, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so what was the point of the mind fight? I don't understand.
Dude, the mind fight cracked me up because it lasts for about, I think the actual like the fight that's happening between their minds is actually like much, much longer. But like physically what we see is that they stare into each other's eyes and then they both collapse. I think I bust out laughing when they both collapse. I was like, wait, that's it? I was expecting this massive epic showdown, you know, like in the Harry Potter movies, you've got like the two wands between Harry and Voldemort, and they're like moving back and forth while the electrical blah, blah, blahs, right, of the power fighting against each other. And you're on that shot for like what feels like 5 straight minutes of them just staring intently. And I was expecting something big and massive like that. And the visuals and the artistic interpretation of the mind fight's really fun. I thought that was some really great creative choices. But again, I think it's not clear, one, like what is happening. There's some like darker shapes and forms that I think we can interpret as being like that virus that's propagating and multiplying that Valia is fighting against. But how she fights against them, why, what does she need to channel, like all of that isn't really clear until we get a scene, like cut back to it later, and Tula arrives, and then that's not even a mind fight. It's more like a moment between these two sisters of them guiding each other through fear and through trauma and all that kind of stuff. So it's not even a fight anymore. It's more of like fighting your own demons. And conceptually, I actually think that a lot of that concept of the fear center and these like memories that are incredibly triggering and these lies that have haunted us for all of these years of our life that trace back to some of these formative moments where Valia has constantly struggled with this feeling of guilt or responsibility for bringing that death of her brother and dishonor to her family. Like, that's all really interesting. I love that they bring that back in this finale episode, but I think it's not clear how that ties into everything else, and then how she walks through that and how she fights through that. It's just kind of a little bit vague.
That was my question, because Tula shows up and she is able to guide Valia through this. And she's like, you have to let it pass through you and all of this stuff, and is like coaching her how to fight this thing. And I'm like, when did Tula learn this information? Like, she had the moment, you know, in the beginning of the episode with Nazir, but Nazir died. So, like, how did she get from watching her friend die from this to then by the end of the episode being able to successfully guide her sister through it? What happened in the middle there that allowed her to have this knowledge of how to fight this thing? We don't know. So it's again this like weird pacing thing where instead of this being like clearly laid out for us how they are gathering information and what their plan is and everything, they just kind of barge into a scene and then it's like, oh no, we have all of the answers, it's fine. I'm like, wait, no, I wanted to know what the plan was, because then that would be more interesting to watch.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah, no idea when Tula learned that. Apparently, a long trip through the galaxy will do it for you. Just clears your mind.
Honestly.
Just revelation comes.
There we go. That's what it is on her little space flight.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things that are also incredibly rushed in this episode, the whole confession, he's my son. Then Valia's, wide-eyed, blinks a couple times, and she's like, you lied to me. Yeah, I had to. Okay, well, the decision is yours. You decide what you want to do with this man that apparently is used by our foe. Again, conceptually for the character, I think it's so right for Valia's growth to be, I am no longer in control of this. Tula, I trust you. This decision is yours. This is growth for Valia, which is amazing. I love that character moment. I think it just happens way too fast in the time period of a small scene like that for a big confession and that bomb to be dropped for her to have realized this growth moment. But also, I think we needed to have seen her maybe struggle to get to that growth. Like, all right, like let's yell at Tula for a little bit, struggle, stew a little bit on our own, come back, and then grow and realize, okay, Tula, the decision is yours. And we could take a course of several scenes to do that. Because I don't think I would have reacted so gracefully as Valia did in that scene. To feel like this big lie, the foe that we've been fighting against our whole time together, sister, is actually your son. You didn't tell me that from all these decades ago. Like, there's just so much feeling that would have come in that moment that I don't buy the growth. I think it is the right choice and right trajectory for Valia. And I love that her growth is giving up control, contrasting to Natalia's where she's gaining control. I think that's really smart for Valia as a character, but happens way too fast.
I appreciate that you are a positive person and
Did you take this?
You read things often much more positively than I do.
Oh, did you read that as...
I didn't read that as growth for Valia. I read it more as like, I have other things to do it. Like, I read it as dismissive. Like, I have other things to do, I'm gonna go do that, you do whatever you want, I'm done. Like, that's more how I read her rather than this like positive, empowering relinquishing of control type thing.
That's interesting. Well, that makes much more sense for why she's like, all right, I don't really care, I gotta get out of here, got things to do.
Yeah.
Bye.
Like, I have a princess to stash. Come on now.
Yeah, you figure it out. I don't care anymore. He's not a mortal enemy. Yeah. He's just a tool. So, yeah, that would make more sense with like the speed with which she seems to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, she's got bigger fish to fry, She's seen the shadows, so she must go chase the shadows.
But also, you just discovered your sister's like lied to you for all these years, and we don't care. We're fine with it. Okay. All right.
Yeah. She has a princess to stash.
Yeah.
She's got to go to Arrakis. She's got to get that spice.
Okay. Tell me your thoughts about that denouement scene of them showing up on Arrakis. This might be also where we can talk about some of the news that has dropped lately.
Yes. Here's the thing. I don't mind them going to Arrakis. That's fine. That's great. More sandworms. Let's go. Presumably, that's also where Michaela is. My girl. She's back with her Fremen friends, presumably, so maybe she'll pop up in season 2. That would be great. I would love that. What I don't want this show to do is to somehow make the Fremen the enemy. This is not what we're going to do, Dune Prophecy. We're not going to take an indigenous people group on this planet and make them the enemy. If you do that, I will be upset. So I think as long as they don't go there, it's fine, cool, yeah, let's pal around on Arrakis. Let's get some spice, let's see some sandworms, let's have some fun. YOLO. I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it was great to see that the 6 episodes of this first season chose not to show much of Arrakis. I thought that was really... It's a level of restraint that I appreciated, because I think there's so much that's so thrilling about being on Arrakis that, like, of course I'm like a Doom show. Let's get there as soon as possible. And so hearing the way that the creative shows talked about, like, you can constantly feel the presence and the pull of Arrakis. You know, the presence of spice constantly throughout, the story and the myth around Desmond and surviving the sandworm. Like, its presence is always near. We have not gone there yet. So I kind of love that the show has mostly played setting-wise outside of Arrakis. And it felt like such a clear tee up for more content. I think Valia literally says something like, you know, our journey begins here, or something like that, which is just, it's so obviously a layup for the next season that I'm like, why do you got to do that? Just give us a really satisfying season, and that will be enough for us to come for more. If you give us a whole contained story that has a satisfying ending, like, we'll come back for more. But I think, like, I left feeling a little bit unsatisfied and a little bit like I was intentionally given a little taste for what's to come. And I'm like, unfortunately, it's effective, but I'm also slightly upset that the meal that apparently we were supposed to get, we didn't get the full meal, and I'm not satiated, and I'm wanting more. So I thought that was an interesting choice, just the timing of the next season being renewed right before the season airing. Smart choice, because there's clearly a tee up for it, so they don't have to deal with all of the rumors and whatnot, and they can start to build excitement now for more journey, more storytelling for these same characters with a season 2.
Yeah, it's great promo. Unfortunately, the entire first season is not good promo for a second season.
Well said.
Like, I am struggling to understand why the show about the Ben Gesserit is this. Like, it's not this, like, deeply interesting political thriller, which is what I expected. Maybe I was wrong in my expectations, but instead it's this, like, melodramatic stuff, you know, and family infighting and long lost heirs and all of this business, which is fine. That can be fun in this, like, political thriller thing, but it's so unfocused. And I still don't really care about Valia or Tula. Like, Tula's fine, but I don't care to continue following them. I don't care about Desmond. I care about Natalia. I think she's cool. That would be fun to watch. You know, some sandworm business on Arrakis would be fun. Michaela and the Fremen would be fun. So, like, there's some good elements here. But the main protagonists of our story, I do not care about. And I don't care to follow their story anymore. So it's like, why would I watch a season 2 except for all of the, like, window trimmings almost? Like, that's really what I'm interested in, is all of the, like, tertiary characters and not the central story. So why do we have a season 2?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that the 2 things that I'm also most excited about for a season 2 would be, I think, the 2 versions of the show that they either need to focus on. Ben Gesserit civil war, essentially, like infighting within the factions of how to run the sisterhood, what choices they make, and philosophically why and why not, and kind of the Dorothea versus Valia approach. So interesting, so much to explore in like communities and groups of people and factions. Like there's just so much there, and there's a lot of politicking that you can think about for gaining power within being Mother Superior alone, and kind of manipulating and influencing the younger followers, and all of that campaigning bit could have been so cool if you just focused on Ben Gesserit's sisterhood and stay contained kind of within Wallach 9. Or the other half that I'm excited for season 2 is Natalia's armies going out and hunting the Ben Gesserit as she continues to try and hold political power on this very public stage. And I think that's the political thriller that you and I are also hoping for with this show, which is the Ben Gesserit are working behind the scenes, but they are at peak power, and we get to see them finesse to continue to manipulate this kind of like public forum or display of power amongst the great houses, but them being the ultimate puppet masters, I think would have been really, really fun to see. And that's the kind of political aspect of the show that would have been really fun to see. So like, but to do both of those things and all of the family drama in one show is a lot. So I think they needed to cut a lot of that. Or, for example, the family drama is just a supporting aspect for all of the political maneuvering within that version of the show too. Fine. But you're right. This does seem very focused on family dramas, not just within like the Carino family, but family drama even within Natalia, Tula, Desmond as her child, that whole family drama. So there's like 2 family dramas happening in one show as well.
Yeah, it's a lot to try and pull off. And it's just so unfocused that I don't think it had the impact that it could have. And it's a real shame because it looks great. The set design is great. I think the like costuming, the editing, like all of these like technical pieces of this show are really, really good. And you can tell that so much money and effort went into producing this show. But the story just kind of fell flat. It was too ambitious and didn't really have a focus. And I'm so bummed about it because I was looking forward to this show because I freaking love the Ben Gesserit. They're so interesting. And to see this like political class of women who are leading and using their authority and having these conversations behind the scenes and bending people to their will and all of this stuff, like that would be so fun to watch. And we got a little bit of that, but not as much as I had hoped for. So I'm not excited for a season 2.
Yeah.
But we're getting one.
We are getting one. And I think it's going to take us farther and farther from the version of the show that we wanted. Because we're now on Arrakis. We're going to be exploring Desmond's past. There's going to be more things with Desmond and Tula because there's a whole, like dramatic emotional storyline that they have to like flesh out there, So we're going deeper into the direction that we've already been running in. Yeah.
Very cool. Very fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, other big things that stood out to you from this finale?
Can we just have a second? And can we have a conversation about touching people's faces? Because Tula needs to keep her hands to herself. Okay? I get this is your kid. You're feeling all sorts of feelings. That's great. Keep your hands to yourself. He is a stranger. Why are you touching him? This is not okay. Think about how overwhelming this is for your child who has never met you before, who has thought he was abandoned for 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
This is not okay. I wanted to take her to the side and be like, okay, Tula, let's come up with a strategy here. Let's come up with a plan so that we all feel safe and cared for and no one feels like they're being taken advantage of or manipulated or unsafe. And she didn't. She just came in with her whole hand, just touching him, hugging him. I was like, buddy, this is not the move. And then he's like, arrest her.
that.
And I was like, yeah, that's the appropriate response.
love that
You know what? If a stranger comes up to me and just starts hugging on me, yes, arrest them. Go away. This is unwanted touching. Be gone.
I love
I
that
loved
he
that.
says arrest her. It's like,
It was so
that is
good.
right for this character and for this moment. Like, we are not walking off into the sunset. Nope. He's got some things he needs to deal with too. And this is a lot for him right now. I think he says, like, get her out of my sight or something like that. Oh, man. Well, but Sarah, how is he supposed to know this is his mother unless she does the whole, like, above the eyebrow stroke thing that apparently she did on him while he was a baby, and that's he is supposed to know.
So
it's
gross.
her.
No, it's unwanted touching.
Dude.
You are a stranger.
The cut to the identical
Stranger
gesture,
danger.
I was like, yo, this baby did not remember, okay? Like,
No.
this is not the signal.
It's just, it's so annoying.
It's strange.
Like,
I mourn.
what are you
honestly,
thinking?
I mourn what the show has done with Desmond. I was excited to see him
Me
just
too.
be this kind of devilish badass that is here to just ruthlessly go for his goal to take out the Ben Gesserit.
Yes.
And he's such a, what he ends up being is a tool used by someone greater that is the son of a character on the show that we have mixed feelings about. We don't know if you know if we're rooting for them or not. And I just feel like he starts out so strong. And I think his screen presence and his charisma allow for him to do so much more than just this, like, wounded young boy who's grown up and feeling abandoned, and now that's his main, like, storyline. I just think that they've used or cast that maybe a little bit incorrectly. Because, man, we've seen Desmond at his greatest, and it's pretty exciting to watch. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe his ruthlessness come out in season 2. We'll see.
I really hope so.
I want it.
Because he was such an interesting character, and he has become less and less interesting with each episode, and that's really annoying.
Yep. But I feel confident he's going to be in the next season, so maybe this is their plan. Like, he starts out so strong, he falls a little bit, and now he's going to come back like 10 times more cold-hearted because he's having all these feelings now that he's not processed through yet. And he's being, I don't know, the feelings of bitterness are being fanned by Natalia in the corner. That'd be great. Clearly, I just don't want the best for any of these characters. This is what I'm deducing. I'm like, yeah, let's see Natalia just be like taking people out, and then let's see Desmond just bitter and coming for everybody. That's what I want to see.
Because that would be interesting to watch.
It's okay. I'm just learning I'm a terrible person. It's fine. I accept it. Let's speak my truth. Show about truth.
Yes,
This is my truth.
Yeah, be proud. Be proud. Because this show has not given us much to work with. So we're just doing our best with what we've been given.
Yeah. Okay, another bit that I thought could have been interesting. It's kind of really random in the show, and I feel like maybe it was part of like a more extended cut. But there's a short little snippet of Harrow Harkonnen has a secret recording device that he's like built into the walls, and it shows Valia talking to Francesca. And I'm sure they're gonna like use this more in season 2 as they have more plot line now and runway. But I thought that was such an interesting choice. Overall, I think his whole storyline wasn't really used very well. It's kind of randomly thrown in there. Valia goes there to accomplish something, which I don't even know why anymore, just to lead up to episode 4's tee up for him to like propose having a investigation done into the Carino family. But other than that, like, he's not really used as a game piece at all by anyone else. But I love the idea of like Harkonnens are kind of outcasts in this world, and Harrow specifically is so underestimated. And I love the idea of like him being this kind of constant, observant, watchful eye, and him holding key pieces of information that are eventually going to be used by some of the major players. And this concept of like not underestimating those outer game pieces or those that seem weaker or smaller or less powerful. Very much him almost being like the Greg of the Dune prophecy world of like, they are seeing everything. And that is important in the world of politicking and influence. And so I love that little bit. They don't really take it any farther over the course of this episode, but it was a little detail that I was like, this is very fun. I'd like to chew on this a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he set up a whole nanny cam in his room. And I loved that. But it made me think of the earlier episodes where it was his dad, his uncle, the dude who yelled sorceress at Valia, that guy, was telling Harrow not to trust her. Yeah. And Harrow still went along with what Valia wanted. But I love that inclusion of the nanny cam because he doesn't trust Valia. So he's not as maybe simple or dim-witted as we might have thought. But he, like you said, he is the cousin Greg of this show and is paying attention and is just like waiting for his time. And so I thought that was a really interesting choice as well. That makes Harrow Harkonnen much more interesting to me than he was before.
Right? So interesting and such a great little character detail that almost feels like seeds that are planted, but we just haven't seen the fruits of them yet. But I wonder, like, is there a Natalia Harrow alliance that forms? Because eventually by, I don't know, thousands and thousands of years later, when we get to the main Paul Atreides storyline, we know that the Harkonnens are a massive force to be reckoned with, one of the great houses. And so clearly there's a rise to power that happens at some point, and how does that happen? And us knowing where his family line and power will eventually rise to makes every little detail and choice that he makes really interesting, because you just wonder, how will he help usher in or plant the seeds for the next generation of Harkonnens to get to that point that we eventually know them to be able to reach?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we know that he is ambitious too, because he's been trying to get in with the big dogs. So he can do it. We believe in you, Harrow. You got this, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. I am excited to see more of him. Like him maybe being used by someone, but then ultimately he's, schemy enough to take them out themselves.
Ooh,
I think that he always has felt like he's got the wits for it. He's just not given the opportunity quite yet. Because of this reputation, they're just kind of sitting on the sidelines. But I think he's got the chops to play. He can play. He's at the game board. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want to see him live his best life.
Yep.
You can do it, buddy.
Okay, other big things that happen in this episode, or interesting things to note. Oh my gosh, should we talk about Dorothea revealing all of the past? Oh,
heck yeah. Baby. Let's go.
That's great.
Air that dirty laundry.
That visual of draining the pond to reveal the bones, I thought was really fun as they stared down at this chasm. One, why would you bury the bodies there? Like, toss them out to sea at least.
Right?
Like, what are we doing?
Do better.
But great visual. And kind of the way that the Emmeline, who we've seen kind of rising up or studying the previous teachings and philosophies of Dorothea's ideology to kind of secretly with her group of followers, and then her kind of having this immediate reverence for Dorothea possessing Lila's body. Very interesting. What did you make of that?
I loved it. I'm here for this. I have been waiting for Dorothea to make herself known and cause some chaos, and here we are. I thought that it was so much fun. And I find it interesting too, because Valia ends the episode with her like vague shadows line and like, now I'm going into the shadows, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, ma'am, you have been operating in the shadows this entire time. Like, are you kidding me? You murdered all of your classmates somehow. You're saying that that wasn't in the shadows? You're saying that you have not been in the shadows? There's an additional level of shadowiness that you have not tapped into when you committed so many murders? So I thought that revealing all of that in such a gloriously, like, burn it to the ground fashion really, like, made me have more questions about Valia and kind of her own self-image. Like, ma'am, how have you convinced yourself that all of this is okay? Are you that obsessed with power that you think it's fine to murder all of your classmates? That feels not okay. So I am here for this Dorothea business. I want to see Dorothea just come out strong, come out swinging. She's already destroyed the AI, which I'm here for.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So in season 2, hopefully, we get a lot of Dorothea just messing everything up for Valia. That would be satisfying to watch.
I would love to see that. And I would love to see Sister Jen and Sister Emmeline really rise up and play kind of a leadership role. They're kind of like the rising stars of the current crop of acolytes, in the same way that Dorothea and Valia were kind of the leaders of their peers. And so it's fascinating to see, like, well, how will they disagree, or how will they choose to work through and negotiate maybe some of those disagreements for this fresh new vision of the sisterhood? Also, when Valia and Tula get back, like, what are they coming back to? You know, it's kind of in shambles. So what are those reactions going to be? How are they? I mean, I could go a bajillion different directions. Will they even ever come back is another question.
Yeah. Yeah, you said when, and I think it's more of an if. Because Tula is in jail because she touched her son's face, and Valia is on Arrakis. So, like, I don't know that they're going to be coming back anytime soon.
Probably not. Probably not. So there's going to be a new crop of Bene Gesserit, but yeah, I don't know.
Heck yeah. Let's go.
They're going to have to collide paths all in some way, I think. Or at least the effects of Dorothea's doing, they're going to have to lead back to. She's got a manhunt going, and she's here for revenge for Valia, so she's going to find her somehow. I love it. The shot in the flashback scene where Valia essentially confronts the group of Dorothea's followers, and right before then, she sends up this little device that then emits this, like, cone of silence that gets beamed down onto their little group. And I thought that was such a great way to build tension, because you just know, like, that cone of silence means shit's going down in this conversation. And I thought that added such drama and tension before they even start to talk to each other. We just know something's about to happen, because she knew this conversation was needing this cone of silence to protect or to ensure that it was all done in secrecy. So I loved that bit.
See, Valia's learned some things. She hasn't watched Dexter, so she hasn't learned how to dispose of bodies. But she did learn enough from the Nixon scandals of, you gotta be sweeping for bugs, you gotta watch out for those wiretaps, you know? Can't have these types of conversations being recorded. So,
no,
gotta cover your bases.
Yes, you do. You do indeed. Well, there's one sister that survives it all, Sister Avila, which I usually, I mean, I liked her in all the previous episodes, but in this episode, when she hands Dorothea possessing Lila's body, the crowbar, I was like, no, you don't get to do that because you betrayed way back when. So I'm like, I don't know, I feel some type of way about that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Oh, gotta stick to your gut.
She did what she needed to do to survive.
I guess so. Okay, other big things that we wanted to mention before we give out some awards.
Okay, here's a question that I have. I have thought of the Ben Gesserit as like these really great like political animals, master manipulators, all of this. But we've kind of seen that it all just kind of boils down to them doing whatever the computer tells them to do. Like all of these like matches and like, okay, you have to go be with Carino because he has to marry Natalia to do X, da da da. Like it's all the computer deciding all of these things. And so I'm just like, wait a second. Is this show about the Ben Gesserit showing us that maybe the Ben Gesserit are like mostly propaganda and not actually as like influential or maybe they are influential, but they're not as maybe strategic as we thought. So I've been thinking about that since the episode ended. Is like, is this show about the Ben Gesserit actually kind of like, I don't know, dumping on the Ben Gesserit a little bit?
That would be a fascinating like twist a little bit for the show, because they are so revered in most other contexts that we've seen them in. I kind of feel like the computer's objective was to give them the like pairing, but as far as how they're going to orchestrate that's a lot of maneuvering that they are doing, of like planting the Francesca to keep Haviko distracted up until the point when Natalia is ready. Like all of that, like the execution of the how to get all of these human beings with thoughts and feelings and desires to comply with whatever larger pairing that they're looking for. Like that's the harder part. And then the computer is able to do that calculation of the genetic codes and whatnot to give them the best pairing for them to continue to hold power, to have a sister on the throne. But just to get all of these people in line to even align to your will is kind of a challenge.
Mm-hmm. But Valia is on it,
Yes.
Man. She is just manipulating her little heart out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the bit that was so great is the way that the Ben Gesserit were stoking intentionally some of the rebellion in order to keep
Yes.
Haviko humble enough to need them. I thought that was probably like, that's the kind of stuff that we were hoping to see in this show,
Yes.
Is that type of, man, that's a genius move. And it's the right tuning, the right amount. Okay, the rebellion's now getting a little too strong. We need to now crush the rebellion a little bit because they are starting to amass a little bit too much power. That delicate nuance and balance of power is kind of what they are. I think that's where a lot of the detail is. That would have been really fun to see.
Oh, that was such a good detail.
That's great.
This show.
So good.
This is not what we hoped for.
Yeah, we needed more moments like that. Like I wanted a show like stuffed with moments like that.
Yes. Yeah, we wanted the House of Cards version of the Ben Gesserit. That would be so fun.
Yeah, but instead we get like, your family is the thing that is your foe. I still hate it.
Which, like, we've seen that in Succession done so well. All of those family things in Succession are so thrilling, and it's intermingled with everybody wanting power and everybody manipulating everybody else, and everybody is a terrible person and they're all awful, but you still like them anyway. Like, that is Succession. How did Dune Prophecy fail so bad when we've seen it done so well in Succession?
Yeah.
Like, we wanted either Succession in space or House of Cards in space. Like, either one would have been great.
Yeah. Because what's great about Succession, which I think this show could have done as well, in a different version, in a different multiverse, is Succession has the politicking, but the politicking goes awry when you put the emotions of the familial relationships in there. So that's why it's really fun, because, on paper, logically, that, for example, this move needs to be made, but you can't do it because you feel the emotion, the guilt, the anger, the love, the affection, whatever it is that comes up at the last minute. And the whole plan goes to shit because the emotions intervened with the politicking that was maybe calculated and correct based on those standards, but didn't factor in some of the emotional dynamics that some game pieces made some different choices than you expected that you could never have predicted or calculated for. So I think that collision of the politicking and the emotional relationships in Succession makes it really, really exciting too. That I think this show could have accomplished as well. And the way, especially that the Ben Gesserit can manipulate the emotions of those different game pieces. We got to see a little taste of that with Valia planting Francesca and kind of stoking these feelings between Emperor Haviko and Francesca. And honestly, I think the scene with Francesca right before Haviko dies, where she's blaming Valia for a lot of the things that happened, is indicative of the fact that, like, theoretically, Francesca's loyalty is fully to the sisterhood, but kind of not really. Like, I think she's caught a little bit more feelings than she was prepared for. And so that's why that whole sequence happened very different from how Valia planned it to be, which is, Francesca, you are going to be the person to administer the Gom Jabbar and take your man out that you say you don't love because you're serving the sisterhood, but I think you kind of built a bond there that was not really factored into the plan.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is fascinating. And again, it's this like, we have the plan, and the interesting part is not the execution of the plan. It's when things go wrong. And that's when you learn about these characters. That's when the rubber meets the road. And you see, like, oh, that's actually what their goal was. Or these two characters, Valia and Francesca, they have actually opposing goals, even though they're on the same side. So then what is Francesca going to do? That is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when it's something that Francesca couldn't have even planned for or projected herself.
Yeah.
You know, like, you think that you're going to be able to take the person you love out with the Gom Jabbar because sisterhood above all, duh, that's been ingrained in our brain from the beginning of our training. But man, when the person you love is suffering in front of you, like, your heart gets soft, and then you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, let's find a way out of this together, Avika, you know? So the whole thing was really very fragile, that whole plan, and couldn't have predicted.
Man, those feelings getting in the way of perfectly good plans.
Yep. And it's a miscalculation, a misstep on Valia's part to not have, like, factored that in as, like, a weak point of the plan too, of like okay, we think that Francesca's loyal. How much do we project she can do this? Like, does she have feelings for him? Wasn't a factor for Valia at all. Maybe because she's, I don't know, not fully understood the dynamics of their relationship, and Francesca's represented a certain way, but actually it's different. And then you get into that whole truth theme too. It's all interconnected.
Well, and then that could be an interesting weakness of Valia too, because Valia is not good with emotions. She might be able to, like, read people enough to manipulate them, but she doesn't seem to know how to connect with another human being, and her relationships are driven by fear or loyalty. And so to have somebody else come in who has feelings, that's something that Valia probably doesn't account for, because that's not something that affects her as much as it might affect someone like Francesca. And so, again, that would be an interesting way for her weaknesses that she might not see to blindside her and mess up all of her plans.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That would have been great. That's what we wanted to have seen. Like, throw a big plan. Episode 4, like, she miscalculated something big because of that.
Yeah.
And then she has to totally reassess her choices, her decision-making, her plans. Maybe that builds the paranoia, so she thinks that she starts to accuse Tula of, like, thwarting her plan somehow. And Tula's like, what the heck? I've given you my entire life. Like, why are you coming at me for, I don't know, accusing me of blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a whole unfolding that could have happened, and then they rebuild for their rise to power at the end. Or it's a tragic unfolding and an unraveling, which kind of is what happens. Like, everything kind of unravels by the end here.
Yeah, which honestly I'm here for.
Yeah.
Let's unravel all of the things.
Yep. All right, well, should we give out some awards?
Can I air one more tiny little grievance?
It's Festivus.
So Theodosia, our girl, she goes undercover as random guard number 3
Mm-hmm.
and plays dead. She does a great job playing dead. Desmond is so close to her and she misses. Yeah. I'm like, okay, ma'am, can we reassess here? He's so close to you. You get literally one shot at this. And if you don't get this right, you are dead. Like, and you get it wrong. And then how is Desmond alive for the entire rest of the episode when Yabiko stabbed himself in kind of the same spot and died like 2 seconds later? What is going on? I don't understand. How did Desmond not bleed out? How did Theodosia not do her job? I'm so confused. But one job.
I thought that he died when she stabbed him. And then he gets up, and then the next shot is him like a shot, a POV shot of Valia seeing his like little figure running with his guards through the door frame. I'm like, homeboy's up and walking.
Yeah, he's doing great.
I was wrong.
Just a little stabbed, guys. No big deal.
Just no big deal. I don't know. Maybe the thinking machine thing, like, I don't know, self-healing goes to work.
Okay.
Some weird thing. It don't make no sense. The bigger question is, you're right. Like, you got one shot. Maybe when you shapeshift, you can't. Right. I don't know. Your aim's off.
you
can't
have to
have
aim.
A weakness somehow. You can already shapeshift. You can't have everything, you know? It's invincible.
You lose your ability to aim when you shapeshift. You
constantly you're like 2 inches to the left.
And then the other thing that I didn't understand is they left a car. It's not a car. They left a ship for them to get away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. You also left 3 other ships available for the bad guys to chase you? Like, what are we doing?
Yep.
If you're going to have a car, a getaway car, at least disable the other ones. Like, do it like a banana in the tailpipe situation or something. Like, something to disable the other vehicles. I don't understand.
Or
their whole plan did not make any sense to me.
Or have an entire fleet of enemy ships come after you, so at least it's a cool visual.
Yeah. One or the other.
Star Wars does that all the time. You see like Millennium Falcon run, and then there's like a gajillion like TIE fighters that come. And you're like, all right,
they just pop up.
Fun shot. I can be a little scared.
Nope. We got 3 chase vehicles, just ready to go.
That's it.
Fueled up with gas. We're ready.
Oh. Okay, let's give out some TVNS awards. The first category is for Best Sis. What is your choice for this one?
Dorothea coming back from the dead to just destroy everything, unearth all the bodies. Let's go.
She's coming for vengeance.
I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm glad they gave enough time to that. You know, like her going through the files and realizing like, oh my gosh, no, like everyone's dead. They've been erased. Like that whole discovery process I thought worked really well. So minutes well used, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. My choice for Best Sis, I've got to stay consistent because I think I've given this award to her a gajillion times. It's for Natalia's Rise to Power. Love to see it. She don't need no man.
Yes. Go off, queen. Yes.
It's great. Very satisfying to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The next category is Spiciest Moment. What is your choice for this one?
I want to give it to your girl, Natalia, when Yabiko is dying and she just looks at him with such disdain. And I loved that. She is cutting daggers through his dying heart.
Mm-hmm.
It was so good. I loved it. She did great.
She was terrifying. Yeah.
Very
satisfying. You can tell there's just been like decades of frustration that is now able to be fully unleashed. The dam is broken. We are free, you know?
Heck yeah.
It's good. My choice for this one is Sister Jen breaking her hands to get out of Lila's
Heck
constraint.
yeah.
What a badass. That was wild.
Yeah. No big deal.
Did she just? And then she like pops her little thumbs back into place, and I was like, oh, yeah, she did that.
She sure did. You go, girl. Do what you got to do.
Okay, the next category is for most cutting line. What is your choice for this one?
I want to give it to Valia for when she says to Yaviko, "You don't matter."
Yeah. So rough.
It's like, dang, okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give this award to Inez for when she says to Valia after proposing to take Kieran Atreides with them. She goes, "I'm not asking." And I was like,
heck yes.
I honestly gasped because we have never seen anyone speak to Valia that way. And the audacity of Inez, like maybe she doesn't know who she's dealing with, but I also feel like there's a spicy part of her that I'm intrigued if it's going to come out and they're going to butt heads or clash or whatnot. Because there's clearly maybe some divided loyalties there that I think will be interesting. But she can hold her own. So I was like, do you know who you're talking to? I'm scared for you now.
Yeah. And I think it's that Inez knows that Valia needs her. And so she is her mother's daughter and is going to use that weight and that influence to get what she wants. Heck yeah.
And then I love the next scene we cut to. They're taking Kieran Atreides.
Yeah, they sure are.
Like, well, he's got to do what she's got to do. She's got to listen when she needs to listen.
Heck yeah. Let's go.
All right. Well, I think we covered a bunch of key points of things we want to see in season 2. Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to mention? Are you going to watch season 2? Are we going to review season 2? Open questions.
Open question. Honestly, I think it depends on like scheduling and stuff. Because if there's another show out that we want to review more, then we're going to do that instead.
Right. Yeah.
But, if we got room on our calendar, who knows? Maybe we'll do season 2. It just, there's a lot of factors.
Yep.
Can't say. I'm not sure if I would watch season 2. I think this is one of those shows that I would wait until the season is over and then make my decision.
Yeah.
I don't think this is one that I would watch week to week unless we're reviewing it on this show. Because I would want to see, like, I'd see where the show goes, kind of like look at the summaries and see like, okay, is this something that I want to get into, or am I just going to pass and watch something else?
And kind of look at the big headlines. People are like, oh my gosh, season 2 of Dune Prophecy is delivering the thing that we've been waiting for. And you're like, oh, are you waiting for the same thing that I was waiting for?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that are teed up. I don't know. I don't feel confident that they're going to take it in a good direction, but some interesting concept things that too that I mentioned. The Ben Gesserit internal infighting. Fascinating concepts there. And then seeing what Natalia does next. And if they even choose to keep her in, I mean, theoretically I would think so, but how big of a role will she play? Or is this going to be like a, let's dive into Desmond's origin story? I'm like, I don't really care. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I would also be curious to see how much of the Fremen are included, because that could be really interesting, because we've learned that there is like a deep spiritual component in the Fremen, and there is some, connection to the Ben Gesserit. We've seen it through Michaela as well. So that would be an interesting thing to try and tease out too. But again, it just depends on where this show wants to go and whose story they really want to follow. And we don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Yep. Agreed. We're going to see some sandworms, because I'm here for that.
Oh, yes. More sandworms. They're so freaking cool.
Carrier on a sandworm.
Honestly, though, like, I'm kind of here for
flap it in the breeze.
It would be so legit. Let's go. I'm here for it. I freaking love the sandworms. Anytime we can include them, I'm just a happy camper.
Yeah. So we shall see. But notable that enough enough viewership, enough engagement that they've seen over the past few weeks for it to get renewed and for them to continue on forward. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, we did it. This was our review discussion of Dune Prophecy Episode 6, and that concludes our coverage of the show. You can find this episode available on Max. Thank you for listening to today's episode of TV and Us. Our name sums it up. We're big fans of TV and the powerful ways we can connect with each other and the world around us. This podcast is about all of us and our shared stories, so everyone is welcome here, and we're so glad you spent time with us today as we concluded our journey here through Dune Prophecy Season 1. You can subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune to your favorite shows. Drop us a rating and review, letting us know your thoughts about the season finale. You can connect with us on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at TVNSPod, or email us at tvnspod@gmail.com. We will be back very soon with some more TVNS content. We've got some special episode types coming out soon, and some more seasons of television, some big ones that are coming in the new year that we're excited about. So stay tuned for more over the next few weeks. We hope you have an amazing week in the meantime, and a happy new year, and we'll talk to you all again very soon.